Hey there friends, happy Saturday and welcome to a very special viewing here of actually a replay of a live Chatty coffee date we did last month with our amazing members in the HMH Collective. You guys are always welcome to come join us, and if you're watching this today before it starts at noon Eastern Standard Time, we will be doing this month's live Q&A over in our membership group. So I'll leave the links down below if you guys want to come and join us for that, but otherwise we're going to have quite the discussion here today that might actually end with me up in tears. So big conversations going on, big topics we're digging into. I got my coffee, I got my tea. Y'all ready? Let's go.
Oh, I'm like in a weird shadow.
It's so soft and beautiful standing in your house. Good morning, everybody. First live. Look how exciting. I have my latest thrift store find here. Oh, and you've got one too. See, I was so excited when I found that cup that you have because there's multiples, and I was like, ooh, we're all going to have one of these.
I love this cup. My fingers can fit firmly inside of it.
Yeah.
This morning when I'm
very dainty,
I'm a little less when I'm a little less dainty in the mornings because my coffee has not kicked in yet.
Yeah, you go to that cup.
I go to this cup because I got like a good handle and it's got a little bit of a
Yeah, that one's a safer bet. Well, and I also understand that drinking out of these cups is the most unrealistic thing ever, but they're so beautiful and it makes my day so happy and so lovely. I do it anyways. But if I don't want to get up every 5 sips to get more coffee, I use that one that you have there because that's like more of a, yeah, when you did that the other day, I was like, I need a teapot desperately.
My husband bought me this one because he could make coffee for me in the morning before he went to bed. And then it would still be warm because he always makes my first cup of coffee in the morning.
Right.
And so like he couldn't figure out a way to make his cup or make my cup of coffee and still go to bed and have me. So he bought this and he was like, honey, I made you coffee. It's in the carafe. It's warm. And then it was amazing because the carafe is way bigger than a cup. So
just
I got multiple cups out of that. It was so great. I loved it. So I, when you got me my little teacups, I was like, oh my goodness, this is exactly perfect for my, yes, it all aligns.
The little things in life.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. This is the best. Oh, I know. We love Sabrina's hair. It's so beautiful. Good morning, everybody. Oh, look at first ones. Oh, I'm so excited. I know. So last month when we did this, your whole household, it was like, so Sabrina's household is still very sick. You guys keep them in prayer. Her daughters have like the worst case of strep throat going on right now. So there's
our son, he has the voice thing going on now too, and we're like, oh, okay, yay! So
they're like falling like dominoes over there. So prayers for you all that you guys like,
please
make it through. But you didn't get to join us for the live. Oh, I accidentally did it. See who does it. Okay, I have new features on my thing, and as I flail my hands around, it makes things happen. So that's okay. I was on with my mom the other day, and she's like, "Why do you keep giving me the thumbs up?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And it literally was just as I flailed my hands around, it was like popping up around me. So we're just gonna ignore that. But I'm super excited that we get to actually do this one live this time with you guys. And I love doing these live with you guys where you guys get a comment as we go. I think that's so fun. And I know we have some really great questions this week. Y'all put in some like great questions. I saw just like glimpses as they were coming through. So I don't know which one Sabrina has selected, but I do have my tea because I already drank all my coffee this morning. It is so cozy here in North Carolina. I am like legit sweater on, blanket on my lap, and we have the house open. I know it's hot and miserable because Sabrina's back in California. So we're just going to like give her all of this to encourage her to hurry and make it this way because it is beautiful here. The leaves are falling. It is so cozy. It's the best. Oh no. Do you see that? We are highlighting this because this is I went to the thrift store to buy my daughter and I new teacups, and they charged us $10 and $12. What? I legit pay like 49 cents a teacup. And you know what? Gina Marie, you're going to just get us to talk about this right now. Sabrina's husband is a genius, I will just say.
He really is.
He
We
really
talk
is.
about him a lot, but he's really a smart dude.
He is. He makes the rest of us feel a little, not so smart because he's so smart, but he doesn't mean to. And we love him just the same.
Yes.
But they went thrifting with us while they were here, and I have a sickness with wanting to collect teacups. And my husband will say that I am minimalist in every area except for plants, animals, and teacups. And her husband goes, what you should do is you should buy all the teacups because they watched me. They literally watched me fall in love with teacups at the thrift store. And my husband was like, what are you going to do with all of that? And I was like, I don't know, but I love it so much. And her husband goes, why don't you collect these teacups and then mail them out to your members? So that way we all can have, because I've totally shipped Sabrina teacups and I'm like, oh, you need this one, like that one, right? Mm-hmm. So Mom, I know you're on here. I haven't talked to you about it yet, but what if we find a way that we could ship out teacups? And then if you guys want some of my super exciting 49-cent teacups, we have to figure out how much it would be to ship them to you guys and make sure that they would get to you all safely. But how fun would it be if we could all have our teacups together? And I will happily volunteer myself to go collect teacups for you guys. And then we talked about if for all of our members in the $20 donation, we put together, my mom mails them out, but we put together little goodie packs that we send out to you guys each month. My mom sends them out, and we gather little goodies that we do. Hey, welcome, welcome. And so we were like, we could put like whatever tea that we're drinking or coffee or whatever. We can put little samples in there for you guys and then send them out. And then we can all join with our teacups and have our coffee or our tea or whatever. But then I can collect beautiful little cups for you guys. That's what we want to do. Because if you were here, that's what I would do. I would pull out I have my little beverage station, and I pull out all my pretty cups and be like, here you go. Here's the pretty cup for you today. So we thought that would be super fun if anybody would be interested and want a teacup that we've selected because I love it so much.
That way people can be part of the actual Chatty Coffee Dates, because they can be sipping on coffee and writing little things. I know you can't talk, but I started out writing things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good. You used to start out. That's how we first met, was you hanging out with the stuff. And yes, we can use them as planters. It was actually really sweet. She's not going to be on today because they're driving back. But Jennifer, who you guys usually see commenting, her family just came this past week, and she brought me, I should have brought it in here to show you guys, but she brought me a little tiny teacup with a plant in it. It was a little like succulent planted in the thing. And we just laughed because she said all it needs on it is like a biblical womanhood stamp. And it would be like the most Heidi thing in the whole wide world. So I have it sitting on my ledge now and I love it so much, but I was like, this is the best. That's awesome. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. We gave everybody some time to get on, but I know we don't want to miss out on all of the great comments and questions, and I will try to answer quickly so we can get through more. And I will just say, you guys, next week, Sabrina is going to do a rapid fire Q&A. Mm-hmm. So we want, if you're at least once a month, we'll do one that's more rapid fire style, where we're going to kind of just get through, more questions since we have so many coming in. So I'm really excited. That'll be fun. But you guys, I don't know how rapid we'll get through these because they were really good. But we'll do our best.
Okay, you ready?
Yep, ready.
Okay. I chose these from our private group. Perfect. So we're going to start with the private group questions because come on now.
That's what the group's there for, yeah.
Right? Okay. Hi, Heidi. My soon-to-be daughter-in-law is a baby Christian and has asked if I could baptize her. I know anyone can perform a baptism, but I've never thought of women doing it. I'd be happy to do it, but do you think this is appropriate? She is not in a church yet.
Okay. Baptism is always, it's funny. I actually answered it this morning. Somebody left, it was Catholic inspired, but they left this comment about baptism being necessary for salvation. I happened to just catch it this morning and I was like, ooh, actually, so I posted a bunch of stuff there, but, baptism is simply the outward expression of the inward change. It is not, water. Baptism of the Spirit is absolutely necessary for salvation, right? You must truly be born again. But while baptism is absolutely something that is special and wonderful, and, we all should be baptized, it's not required for salvation. Water, the being baptized of water is not what saves you. It's no action we do that saves us. It is through Christ alone. And so, anybody can perform a baptism, which I think sometimes seems weird, just because I think we see how women abuse their desire of power in the church today, right? Women want to be pastors, women want to be in charge, women want to be the leaders, right? Women want to do that. So I know we talk about that a lot. And so I feel like sometimes it seems kind of weird, but baptism is something that anybody can do. It's not a like grab of authority or anything like that. It is genuinely just that outward showing of what has happened inside. And so, yes, of course, anybody could perform a baptism. I think it's one of those things that we're like, well, what do we do? And how does this work? And is there an order? Do I have to say the right thing? How does this do it? And it really is interesting because we don't have any biblical mandates or order of operations, that have to take place. It is your confession. And, truly it comes off of obviously the Jewish mikvahs and the ceremonial cleansing and things that they would do, is where this kind of idea of what we call it baptism and cleansing comes from. But yeah, anyone can. And I think obviously the most important thing for anyone to come to the faith is to truly dig in and to truly start learning and growing in their discipleship. That is why we offer our church online. That's why we have A&P Home Ministries. It's literally where it came from. You guys are all welcome to come and join us. We've got teachings there every week and different classes and things that we do. And so you guys are all welcome for that, because that would be the most important part of it. I think of the parable of the seeds, right? Where some are scattered and they're shallow. And so they come up, they don't have roots, they wither, anything that comes and kind of knocks them out. And so whenever I hear of new believers, that's the thing that kind of stands out first to me of, that's great. And praise God that, you responded to his calling and absolutely get baptized, but get discipled. I think that that's really the most important key to it.
I think we're going to have to do something a little larger on baptism specifically, but I think that is a perfect summary of baptism. Mm-hmm. Sure, you could baptize her.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You can. Absolutely. You can do that. There's nothing that says that you can't. But it's more important to disciple the heart of that human rather than put it into water.
Right. Nothing wrong, but more important. Yeah, absolutely. And I will say a funny on this is we actually had to have a conversation with our 5-year-old about the depth of baptism, because we're closing our pool up right now because it's gotten too cool here. But she was swimming with her siblings, and she's been watching a lot of stuff with John the Baptist. And as her sisters were trying to swim in the pool, she kept grabbing them and pulling them underwater and saying, "I baptize you in the name of the Father." And so we had to have a conversation with Olivia not too long ago about a little bit more into the heart of the matter of baptism, as she was like baptizing everybody she could get her hands on, which was kind of the cutest thing in the whole wide world. But at the same time, we were like, maybe we should discuss this a little bit more.
I think Olivia is adorable. And
like, what 5-year-old isn't John the Baptist? Come on.
I kind of think all children do that because they've seen it. So they try to replicate it. And
it's just so funny. The kids got out and they're like, "Mom, will you talk with her? She keeps baptizing us." And we were like, "Wait, what? What is happening?" True story.
Okay. So, how's your flower farm going? What did you learn? Will you do things differently next year? Please tell us.
So Sabrina's saying it like this. And hey guys, I love how many of you are making it to your first one. This is the best. Sabrina's saying it like this because she got to have a real life walkthrough of the graveyard. It was the flower farm attempt. So we decided earlier this year, really just having to like think through our lives and what we're going to be when we grow up and things like that, and dealing with family chaos and nonsense. And I don't know, it was like our midlife crisis or something. But good morning, everybody. We were like, this is ridiculous. We love this property here. And it takes so much work to even just keep up and keep it somewhat level. It's only 8 acres. It's not the biggest piece of property in the world, but it's a lot of work. And we're not, we could use more people. Hint, hint, wink, wink, just saying. But we were like, we need to put this to work. And something that one of the first things we thought of doing when we first moved out here was start a flower farm. I was a florist by trade and did weddings and all of that. And so we didn't have a budget. Hey, Kay, we didn't have a budget or anything to, kind of go into it with, but we knew we needed to do something. And so we started stuff off, and I think we kind of got too late of a start anyways. It's while we all were sick, and we were like, we're just going to go for it. We're just going to do it. And so we did. We started planting a bunch of stuff, and it was looking really good there for a while. We were really excited. And then honestly, it all kind of flopped. And that's why you didn't really hear anything more about it, because I literally had nothing to show. I didn't have much at all. We did get some stuff, and it wasn't really enough to like gather and sell, but it was enough for me to gather and use. So I had some great bouquets here for a while. I mean, I was not bummed about that. We actually were up there this week with people that came over, and we've got a handful of zinnias that are still producing. I've got a gorgeous dahlia that my mom got me that's still producing. So I actually have that bloom sitting on my kitchen, like windowsill. We have a marigold that's producing. And of all the lily bulbs I planted, I actually have one that came up. I'm kind of a flower snob, so there's only certain ones that I will plant. And it's this beautiful oriental that came up, and it actually has a double bloom. So I was quite excited about that. But basically the flower farm did a whole bunch of nothing. It was a huge flop, and I don't regret any of it. I don't regret any of it, because you don't know if you don't try. And I would love to talk more about this in the future, because I think that so often we get stuck in life where it's like, well, it is what it is. I can't do anything about it. Here we are. And then we somehow just all resign to be like, content, not content, but like just okay with not living a life that's like the fulfillment that we know we're called to have. And it's like, well, I'm just stuck here. So here's what it is. And this is life. And we just kind of are resigned to that. And I think that that's a bunch of poo. And none of us should do that, because I think we all should live a lovely life and should do the things that we're excited about. And we know that, are important and special, and God's called us to. And sometimes it means that we try a bunch of stuff and we fail and we fall on our faces. And I mean, I could be mad that I wasted all this time and I wasted what little money we had and nothing came of anything. I could be upset about that, but I feel like it taught me more in it. It's opened a lot of doors. A lot has changed this year, which is kind of crazy. And looking at that change and embracing it and going, okay, Lord, like, what does this mean? Where are you leading us? What do we do with this? One thing that we tried and I thought was a great idea, didn't seem to pan out. But I think when we trust God to close the doors, right? I think of like, when our friends come over, when Alexis comes over, they've got twins that are 2. And so when the twins come over, we go down, we have a big long hallway, and we go down and we close the doors we don't want Liam and Harper going into. And we open the doors that are okay, that we want to kind of like corral them into, right? Like as you're traveling down here, don't go here, go here, and so we kind of do that. But I feel like God does the same with us. And so when we trust him and we go, hey, I'm just going to keep working as unto the Lord, and you'll either open a door, you'll close a door, you'll slam it in my face, you'll put neon lights around it, whatever it is. And it's just my job to step out in faith and to walk down that hallway and kind of, like a bowling ball with the bumpers on the side, when you go and you're like, oh, not that way, okay, and you kind of figure out where you're going. I think the biggest thing is just to try. And I think so often we get scared and we don't take that step to just give it a shot and try. And you don't know if you don't try. And I definitely am a firm believer in, hey, you might as well ask. The worst thing that's going to happen is they say no, right? You don't know. So just go for it and just try. So did we go for it and did we try? Yes, absolutely we did. Did we fail miserably? Yes, absolutely. We got road rash all like on our face because we just like plopped down and totally didn't do anything. We didn't make a single dollar. I had some beautiful flowers though, and I'm happy with that. And we learned a lot, and now we'll continue to regroup as we keep praying through this and what that looks like. Will we plant new garden beds in the spring? Probably. Will it be though for like commercial production? Probably not. There's a few things that we're praying over that we would really love to see, but they're kind of bigger things that would take some resource, some sort of something, to go for it. And I don't know what that'll look like, but I keep, kind of feeling that like nudging in the spirit. So we'll keep trying.
Okay. And I'm terrible about remembering the names in the Bible. I'm really good at names in our life now.
Yeah.
Biblical names, I got nothing. So I can tell you the story though.
Okay.
Let me tell you the story. The dude in the Bible.
That narrows it down. Okay.
Right. He was told to build a temple, and I don't think it's Solomon. Just to be clear, I'm pretty sure it's not King Solomon.
Oh, like when they go back to rebuild the temple, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. They go back to rebuild the temple, and they're like, the temple's like dead. But God is like, no, you got to go build the temple. And they're like, but the temple's dead. And God was okay. So God doesn't wait on us, but like,
right.
He kind of does. Like He waits for us to make a step. And
yeah, Nehemiah. Thank you.
There we go. Thank you so much. So He builds the wall, but He waited. It was like this balance between, do I go? Does God go? Do I go? Does God go? Okay, you know what? I'm going to take one step. And if God's with me, I'm going to take another step. And if God's with me, I'm going to take another step. And that's kind of what you guys were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you were like, you know what? This seems insane. I don't know what to do with a flower farm, but God's telling me that I need to do something with this property. And a flower farm is what I can figure out. So like, let's start with a flower farm. You put your foot forward and God was with you. And then you put your foot forward again and He started to corral you. So He just altered what you thought was His vision.
Right. That's a great way. Yeah.
You didn't know His vision. You just knew that you needed to take a step forward in faith on your farm. And then God would bless it. He would do the things that He said He was going to do.
Yeah.
And so it's not the flower farm you designed or you desired, but it is the farm that God is putting together to be used for His glory.
Yeah.
And it's kind of stinky because it's not what you saw in your head, but like it's what God
pivot. Yeah.
Like it's still a farm. You still have life there. Mm-hmm. In our house, we're really big on, well, what's the goal? I know that like all the other things are there, but what is the goal? The goal is to have alive things on a piece of property growing together with your hand guiding and nourishing it and to be part of it. That's accomplished. Flowers are pretty, but that's not the goal. The goal we're all about the goal, because the fluff
Love
and the frosting can all fall off, but the goal has to be accomplished.
I love that. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. So yeah, that's why nobody really saw anything, because I didn't have anything to share at first. And then it was like other things just started getting really busy and other things started going. And so it was like, wow, okay, we're pivoting over here. Here's where we're going. Okay.
It's where God grew the things. And then you were like, okay, I'll go take care of these things. Oh, here's some other things that are growing. Okay, I'll go take care of those things. Thanks, God.
Yeah, exactly. I hope you guys are enjoying this so far. I love getting to do these chatty coffee dates, and I love our membership group, genuinely. That's why I keep inviting you all over to join us. We have such a great time digging into amazing topics. For the month of November, we're doing a group Bible study that I am so excited for as we work to really grow our habits of being in the Word each and every day. So not only will you get access to lives like this, our private members group, every course we've ever done, materials, websites, you name it, y'all come over and join us. I've got those links down below, but let's finish up these conversations.
Fruit of the Spirit.
Okay.
Do you actively pray to receive a specific or all of the fruits of the Spirit in your life, including tongues and prophecies? Which ones do you or your loved ones exhibit? How impactful are they? That you found the fruits? Oh, I got it. How impactful have you found the fruits that you have received to be ministering to others in your life? This is lots of questions, but it's like a concept. So
yeah, it is. It is. So let's see. Trying to think because you're right. It's kind of a couple questions.
Do you actively pray to receive specific fruits?
Right. So there's a lot here that we can go into, obviously, right? The fruits of the Spirit.
And this will absolutely be something that is covered in deeper other topics and other videos. And it's going to be put in like little pins of, we should have some really deep discussions about this, because this seems like a multi-faceted question.
Yes.
And like, we should all sit down and discuss it and like do that chewing session where you like, what about that one?
So, I think first, we think of, we know the works, right? So I just pulled up like Galatians 5, right? Works of the flesh are evident: sexual immorality, impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, enmity, strife, jealous, fits of anger, rivalries, dissension, divisions, envy, drunkenness, orgy, right? Goes on and on and on. Those things, no, right? Those are those things we turn from as we're born again. But the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. So looking at those, I think we all probably in different seasons of life and things that we run into, we might have a certain one that, we're really struggling with. I'm not hot on the trend, I guess, that is God giving you a word, right? You see it around New Year's where everybody's like, that's my word. But I think a lot of the times it's kind of like those.
God gave me my word of the year. He is going to anoint me.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? The false.
Right. And it's like, my word this year is gentleness. Everything will be brought through. And it's like, okay, maybe gentleness is an area that you need to work on. Fantastic. God doesn't give us words for the year, but okay. If that's something you need to work through, that's something you need to work through. That's between you and him. That's not my business. But so are there ones that sometimes I think we maybe are just in whatever season of life we're in could use a little more help with? Sure, that's fantastic. If digging in and word studying that and looking more into it and just kind of meditating on those words a little bit more can help you, then that's fantastic. I'm not really one of those people. Like that's not usually something that I find edifying. So it's not usually somewhere that I will just kind of sit in. So like I can't think of that specifically, but then when it comes to more of the gifts, right? When you look at the first century church and the gifts of the Spirit in ways of speaking in tongues, healing, prophesying, right? These different things. There is a much deeper conversation that goes into all of this that there's no way we could cover in what's left of this, nor do I really feel it's my place to cover. We definitely need to, search these things a little bit longer. Are there the gifts of the Spirit? Absolutely. Yes, they are. Do I believe that they were for a time and a purpose? Yes, because that's what Scripture clearly tells us. Are people still going around today anointed and healing people and things like that? No, they are not. Could you have the gift of tongues? Sure, you could. Is it being used properly in accordance to Scripture? And I think that's the biggest part, because what we see today is not what we see biblically. If you supernaturally one day wake up and are able to proclaim the gospel message of Jesus in a language that you've never learned before, but is an understandable language that you use to then, minister to someone else and to edify them and build up the church, then praise God. That's amazing. God can do all kinds of things. Absolutely. He can give you the, ability to minister to others in their language that you did not previously know. But as far as what most people have kind of turned this into, again, it's not even an argument of is it or isn't it? It's, are you using it in accordance to Scripture? Because Scripture very clearly lays out what the gift of tongues is, how it's to be used, and how it's to be kept in track. And also says that when we don't do these things, we look like a bunch of fools uttering nonsense, and that brings shame upon the body of Christ. And so I think that's a little more important to look into than just desire things. So do I personally kind of, meditate on or desire any specific works of the Spirit or anything like that? No, I don't, honestly. I'm content with what the Lord's given me, and I just focus on what He puts before me, and whatever that leads to, that leads to. But as far as getting kind of hung up on and desiring things, I think it's, is it Paul Washer or John Piper? It's John Piper has talked about how he so desires like certain ones. And I'm like, yeah, I don't really get it. It's not really a thing for me, but I would much rather just focus on, what is here and what is before us and what the Lord is calling us to do and calling us to serve through. And I'm content.
So the gifts of the Spirit that you work on are things like gentleness, peacefulness, that like those are the ones that you're meditating on how to be that type of person to respond that way.
Right.
But you are not concentrating on tongues, prophecy, healing, preaching. That was another one, because that's a gift of the Spirit, is preaching. But at certain times, you don't think that miraculously it could happen.
Sure.
Anything can miraculously happen. It's not outside of God's realm.
Right. And that's where there's a little bit of division, because there are the fruits of the Spirit, right? Like we just talked about, that is for all of us, for all of time. And then there's spiritual gifts, which is technically actually, like, that's why, like, this question kind of embodies a lot of things, because it's not technically in the same, it's kind of over here. But again, there'd be a lot of breakdown and things that we would have to go into in all of this, because are there spiritual gifts? Yes. But
so while you were talking,
spiritual order,
I heard it in a new way. My husband talks about the gift of tongues often, because we live somewhere where it's here, y'all. So the gifts of the Spirit is something that our town thinks most people have, and you go to a ceremony to have them bestowed upon you. So it's something that's here, and he has some very specific feelings about it, but we talk about it often. And while you were speaking, I was like, oh, actually, It doesn't necessarily specify that speaking in tongues is anything except for language that is understood and translated by somebody. Couldn't that be as simple as explaining something in a way that somebody has never heard and them going, oh my gosh, thank you so much for explaining it like that. I never would have heard that. You just interpreted that for me and I never understood it and you helped me understand it and you put it in a way that I never heard before. I've never heard this before. Thank you so much for telling me it that way.
Yeah, I think we see that too a lot with like the prophecy, right? There is no new prophecy. Prophecy is closed. Anybody who's claiming that they have prophecy, like you do not. Like that's, again, whole different topic. I know we can't cover this all here today. But when you look at that though, and you still see, and it's like, okay, but things like that, right? We have amazing teachers today. That's so thankful for these men of the word who like, they sit down and they break it down and you're like, thank you. No, they're not bringing new revelation and prophecy to scripture, but they're taking it and saying, see, let's put it in context. Let's lay it all together. Let's go through this. And then you're like, oh, thank you.
How did I never hear that before? I've heard it this way 75 million times. How did you say it that way and me hear it? Whoa, it was like you were speaking my language. Ta-da. That's how I heard it when you were talking about it. I was like, oh my, you're speaking my language. Oh, that's a different way of hearing that. Oh.
So still of course we still do those things, but again.
It just looks really different now. And it's definitely not like called those things or looked at that way or
the spectacle that people have turned it into.
Yes.
That again has done nothing but brought shame upon the body of Christ. So anyways.
Homeschool.
Okay.
Homeschool, high school transcripts. Did you make one for your son? How did you keep track of the hours with your style of schooling? I'm embracing a slower pace and self-led learning. It's such a lovely way to learn and teach, but I think they'd like some practical advice. And this is a really hard question because we don't know what state you're in. And every state is different. Like Heidi has a different criteria for her graduating high schooler as I have for my graduating high schooler because we are in different states.
Yeah. So it is going to depend on what state you're in. For anybody who is trying to go more about a child-led learning, a slower pace, I highly recommend that you do some Google research of, even if you're not unschooling, but Google research, unschool your state, right? So unschool North Carolina, unschool California, and you're going to find people there in your state who are dealing with the specifics for your state and can show you how to put this together. I am not a transcript focused person. I did. You're laughing because you know what it is.
I know the story. It's so funny. It's so funny. You're just not this person. And then you were asked to be this person. And you're like, okay, I guess I'll go home and be that person.
Okay. So y'all are going to judge me so bad. Okay. So you have to hear
it out there for the internet. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
It's out there on the internet. It's okay. Oh, and I get in trouble for touching my hair. I'm really going to get in trouble for this. Okay. So here's the thing. Our son needed to get our son has no interest in getting his driver's license. That is not something, I don't think we should be getting our 16-year-old driver's licenses and sending them out in their cars anyways, but our son has no interest. And so we have not done that yet, but he did need to get a state issued ID. And so we went in, and due to the lovely folks out in California where our son was born, we have an issue with his official birth certificate. And for any of you who have had to deal with California, it's not the funnest thing in the whole wide world. And so even our DMV was like, what is wrong with California? This is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And I was like, I know. this is what they gave me. Like, I don't know what to do. This is literally the kid's, he's 18 at the time, but I'm like, kid's 18 years old. And like, this is what they've given us. I don't know what to tell you. And so he goes, okay, let's see. So we're chatting with all the guys at DMV. They're super sweet. And they're like, what do we do? Like, cause you're right. California is a disaster. How do we get around this? And he goes, okay, the only thing we could come up with to get them to be able to do what we needed them to do was if I provided a transcript. And they're like, oh, what school do you go to? And we're like, oh, we're homeschooled. And they're like, oh, of course, right? Like nothing simple in our case here. And so he goes, well, can you bring me a transcript? And I was like, absolutely, I can. And he's like, all right, well, dang it. And then I can give you a little heart. Ta-da. Now we're getting distracted. But he goes, can you give me a transcript? And I go, absolutely, I can. So as we're leaving, my son goes, Mom, I didn't know I had a transcript. And I was like, well, you don't. So now I'm going to have to go home and make one because we've never needed one. I am not a pro-college person, even as a college dropout myself. And so I was like, I can do it. Like that's within my realm of what I've never needed to. So I haven't, but now I need to go put one together real quick because dude's got a lunch break in a little bit and we got to like hurry up and get this done. And so we went home, I pulled it up and I put one together. It took me like 10 minutes. And I put together something just very, very simple where I just kind of put together our things that we focus on and what we do and, kind of how many he spent all year doing this each year. So this is what it would calculate out to be. So I did something just very, very simple and straightforward. And we took that in, they got him his ID and everything was done and taken care of. And like, that was kind of it. But, so yes, technically our son does have a transcript, but it's one that I threw together in about 10 minutes so we could get back before somebody's lunch break and get our son's ID finalized. If that is something that you're concerned about, I mean, there's definitely lots of tips and tricks and things, to put together out there. It's really not as scary as I think people make it out to be. I think it's kind of hard because the system is not put together in a realistic way anyways. And so it's like, what is learning? I feel like Pilot over here. What is truth? Because it's like, well, what is learning, right? Is it just the credits? Is it just the hours? It's lifelong. It's always going. We're always doing this. And it's so much bigger than just that. For me, I think the system that we try to put the kids into and, we don't do grades. I don't grade anything. We do things very specific, and I guess kind of different just across the board. So being able to put together a transcript, even with this kind of style, there are unschooled kids that if college is your thing, I mean, just go and thrive and all of that. So, I mean, if that's your thing and that's what you want to do, you definitely could. College is not something I recommend, especially for our young kids, especially for our daughters. Is there a time and a place and certain things where it can work out? Yes, of course. And is that something simple that you can always put together even from the back end? Yeah, it really is. And so I just kind of, don't worry. I mean, I really don't worry about anything. And I feel kind of bad to say that, but like I genuinely just don't. And so I think, if it is something that you need even after the fact, a little bit of sitting down and thinking through it and putting it together, it really isn't, too awful to have to, throw together if you need to. But it's definitely something that I don't really worry about or put much effort or concern into, which is probably not the answer anybody is looking for. I'm so sorry.
So I just found the comments on our video. I might not have even figured out how to do that.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that. They are concerned about possibly going to college.
Yeah.
So literally, as you're talking, I typed in how to get a homeschool kid into college. I think that's what I literally Googled. And then it says that most colleges have some kind of transfer thing, like they just accept them. Yeah. It says that there are a couple of schools that have very specific requirements. Like apparently the College of Charleston has an actual requirements for homeschool applicants. And when you click on that, it says that they require a standardized test. They respect each state's homeschooling laws, but
I think that's what it is. It's really that like admittance test. You've got to get through that for anywhere.
Everywhere.
Regardless of your transcripts, you have to go through that. Even if you went to just regular standard. I mean, I had to do all of that, and I came from, because I started college right away.
I did too.
It didn't matter that I was graduated in the top of my class. I had a super high GPA. I was in, all of the things. You still got to take the same test as everybody else. So
I felt the exact same way. I went to our community college, and I did the exact same thing. Even with a high school diploma, they ask you to take the admittance test, and then they just look at your diploma and go, "Yep, you graduated. Cool."
Yeah.
That was our personal one. I know that all of the colleges actually have on each of the things that I clicked on while you were talking, they each had a counseling question place. If you have any concerns about your specific admittance, please call this number.
Mm-hmm.
This is the most generic answer, but really it's going to depend on the school that you are going to go to. And then even if you graduate in one state and then apply for college in another state, you already have to do different things. Like there's a process that you have to go through, and you just follow the process. That's exactly what you're going to have to do with high school, homeschool, and college. You're going to have to find somebody in the college who tells you this is a process, and then you're going to have to follow the process.
Yeah, so I feel like you'd probably end up adjusting your transcript regardless of, right? Because everybody's looking for something different. And so, it might even be a little more helpful to not really worry about it going into it, but kind of do it on the back end. So that way you could pull the correct information that they're looking for to show that. So that way, you're showing you got to play the song and dance a little bit. Everybody's looking for their thing. And so you got to figure out what it is they're looking for and then answer accordingly.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking of the volunteer parts of the high school transcripts, and where they're like, "Oh, well, have you volunteered for anywhere?" And you go, "Well, not really." But then they say, "Well, if you want to get into this program, you really need to volunteer here. Have you ever volunteered in anywhere like that?" And you go, "Oh, well, actually," and they start catering it towards you, and then you go, "Oh,
Yeah.
So it's
that helps.
It's very specific to where your child wants to go, but it'll all be okay. My graduated high school daughter came to me and said, "I'm thinking about being a kindergarten teacher."
Out of the blue.
Out of the blue. My mouth, what? Huh? You hated school. You hated all of these things. You love kids. 1,000,000,000% she loves children. But she did not want to do the process of the school, and then she didn't want to, it's just not her. She's so creative, and she has a very creative mind, and schooling is not her shtick. So for her to come to me and be like, "I want to go to college and be a kindergarten teacher." Okay, we can try to figure out how to do that.
And by trying to figure it out, it means that I was like, "Hey, here's all the colleges close to us. You could go there learn and get your teaching." Or, we'll just start our own official school and you just come work for us. But, there
you go. I like that one. But you just pivot, and then you figure out, "Oh, well, that's a new field to go into. Okay, let's do that. Let's research it," because you're a homeschooler and you know how to research things. And you're going to just dig in and go, "How could I be that kindergarten teacher?" And then they figure it out.
Yeah.
It sounds so terrible, but they'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because we've taught them how to think and not what to think.
Nope.
And you're right, Brittany. I think just kind of keeping track of the things that you have done, even if it's just a, kind of journal or something of what you've gone through, is helpful just to help, so say 4 years from now, you need to recall some of this information, you kind of have it there. That's a great way to do it.
Okay. I got a very long question, but it boils down to a small question. What would you like?
Yeah.
You want me to just read the whole thing?
Yeah, read the whole thing.
Okay.
Context is king.
You got it. because I think that this one is actually quite lovely. I read the entire thing to my husband last night, and we actually sat in the backyard and conversated all about this, because I was like, tell me your opinions, because you're a dude. And he goes, I am a dude. I was like, yes, but I need your opinions because you're a dude and I'm a lady and I don't have those opinions.
He's like, how did I get roped into this?
Yes. Okay. Friday's video came at an interesting time. I've been wrestling with the desire to quit my job. I haven't followed through due to the thoughts of maybe that I'm just being lazy and I need to persevere. I'm stressed and anxious every day. I would love to embrace a slower paced life. My husband does not want kids. Starting the Biblical Womanhood series has softened my heart to the idea of kids. We have had conversations about it, but I'm not sure if he'll ever change his mind. Being a stay-at-home mom is already looked down on in society, so I get the feeling even more that you need to be at work if you don't have kids to raise. I make significantly more than my husband, so I know it'll be a big hit to our lifestyle. All this to get to my main question. What are your thoughts on being a stay-at-home wife? If you are not planning on being or cannot be a mom. So there are so many things in this. We are going to use this question for so many different videos because it's so deep.
Yeah.
It's so deep.
So, first thoughts. One, is your spouse a believer? Because if you're, it
did not state
one or the other.
It does not state. So I have nothing to go by, but that is like that little chart where it's like step 1, is your husband a believer? And then it's got the little like spider web things. Yeah.
We did a podcast years ago, and I know I need to redo like all of these podcasts. But we did one talking about birth control and just kids in general. And it's really, really an important conversation to have. I know we can't necessarily break down all of it here in the next 10 minutes, but if your husband is a believer and has this like adamant against kids view, well, there's a heart issue there. If your husband's not a believer and he just doesn't want kids, and that's just, whatever. But for us as believers, our view in, like how we view children is actually really important because that's really connected to much bigger kind of heart issues just across the board. So I know that's kind of like a little side piece there, but that was just kind of a thought I had as we're listening. That's an interesting point to know the difference on. But regardless of that part of it, yes, being a stay-at-home mom is completely looked down upon. Prioritizing your home at all is completely looked down upon in our world today. And I think it is some of Satan's greatest work to keep women, it goes back to the curse in the Garden of Eden with, we're going to be desiring to rule over our husbands and whatever. But we are called to be keepers at home. There's no asterisk there that says only as a mom, only, right? Like there's nothing else there that shows up. And so I think only you can answer that question of, are you just trying to be lazy? Right? Only you can answer that. If you're sitting there going, I want to quit my job because I want to do nothing but sit around at home, lay on the couch all day and scroll on my phone, right? Like only you can answer that question. So that's a heart issue because laziness is a heart issue. It's not a physical issue. It's a heart issue that you have to look at and see what's really going on there. But I'm going to tell you guys a quick story. And I will tell you that we have been blessed with the ability to connect with multiple women that I can, as soon as I heard you reading that, I can see their messages in my head that over the past 5 years of us doing this study have as women who were physically unable to have children or had been trying and had never been blessed with children, had made the decision to be stay-at-home wives. And I still get messages from some of them periodically and updates and things, and it just warms my heart and makes me so happy. But I'm going to tell you this. My mom was a single mom of 3 kids and had to go back to college, had to get a job, like had to do all of the things because of circumstances of life, right? One of the greatest blessings ever in my entire life was an aunt. She was actually my great aunt, and she was a second mom to me because she was never able to have children, but she dedicated her life to being a stay-at-home wife. When my husband, they got married and they did things. And even though she could have gone, she had many talents. I mean, she was crazy talented. She could have done so many things, but she always stayed at home once they got married. And, she kind of finished up what she was doing and she moved to being a stay-at-home wife. And I'm so thankful for her example because it has taught me some of the biggest lessons that I carry with me every day of my life. I carry her lessons into my marriage, into my parenting, into even my ministry and, what I do. And she prioritized home. How she was there to be able to support my uncle, I really do believe was a huge key component in how successful he became in his career and everything he did. And it was, a huge part of that was just the support he had from her and what all she did. She would go sit in with us. We would go to lunch with him and his secretary, and she'd sit there with the secretary and write all the stuff down. So that was her calendar, and she'd put everything together and host, dinners for business things and all of these different things that went in. But then it meant that, cycling back into my single mom here, when my mom ends up a single mom with 3 kids and trying to do all the things, and we were dirt poor and, all of the stuff, my aunt and uncle, but, my aunt stepped in, and she really was that second mom, to us, where she stepped in and was there for us, and for my mom to be able to do the things my mom then went on to do. She was literally a key component of that. My mom couldn't have done those things without that support. Our lives would have looked radically different had we not had that support. And so seeing the ways that my aunt was able to step in and to serve from her home as mission control, right? The way that she was able to do that, it literally was so impactful, so powerful. And that, that impacted my mom, that impacted me, that's now impacting my children. And I'll tell you guys, we unexpectedly, tragically lost her a few years ago. And it still is just something that it hangs with me. And I hate it so much because things will happen and I'm like, oh, I need to tell her this, or where was that recipe, or, different things that I know she would be, wow, I'm not an emotional person. I'm so sorry, guys. Things that she did, that she poured into as just a stay-at-home wife, will go on to have the biggest impact. And I just think of what the world tells us, that you're wasting your life and that you're so much valuable somewhere else. And especially for her, she didn't have her own kids. My husband, or her husband, my uncle, he could have done it all on his own. But the impact that she made as just a stay-at-home wife is bigger than so much. And I think, sorry, I can't tell you the last time I cried over anything. It's so important. And so when we believe the garbage the world tells us about where our value comes from, this is why it makes me upset. And this is why I love talking about this, because our value is so much deeper and so much bigger than what the world tells us. And when we downplay that and we say that our role as women is only valuable when it's contributing to an employer or contributing to society, right? In all of the ways that we tell it, we're shortchanging ourselves, and we're truly taking away exactly what God designed us to be. And are children a blessing? Yes, of course they are. I love you're right. I love being a mom. My kids are amazing. But I look at the example of my aunt and see how she changed our lives so much. And would she have been an amazing mom? Yes, she would have been the best mom ever, right? But God didn't give her that. He gave her us. And she got to still pour in and use those gifts and use those talents in a way that will continue to impact, prayerfully for generations to come. And so I think sometimes we can feel worried, like, am I being selfish? Am I being lazy? Do I just need to stick it out? And, this isn't the thing for me. I say 1,000% no, because God didn't put any asterisks there in scripture saying only for moms, only for only for that. He says that our ministry starts in our home, and he doesn't make any mistakes. So if that's what he says, it's because that's what he means. And I know that my aunt isn't the only person in the world who did this. She's just one story of many, where I know many people have ran into those women where they prioritized home and they were there. And the difference that you can make in someone's life can be profound. And I think God set it up that way for a reason. And so hopefully I answered the question. I don't even know, because I'm just sitting here crying like a baby. But
you absolutely answered it.
Okay.
I 100,000,000% know that this is going to be a topic that we will discuss, because you and I discuss all kinds of things. Mm-hmm. But yep, this is going to be something that we discuss a lot, and we will probably put multiple videos out about specifically this.
Yeah.
I wrote something as you spoke. It felt like God gave her a husband who gave her the space to love like God called her to love.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah.
She took that space that her husband gave her and was like, how can I use the most out of this? And then did exactly what she was supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And even though, they could have, she had great jobs. She was a paralegal. She did all kinds of amazing stuff. They gave up lots of money. They gave up lots of different things. But then she also was able to take that time and invest it in other ways that it allowed them to buy properties and use them as rentals, because she could keep up on all of that stuff from home, right? Like, she could kind of keep up on that and fill him in, and he would go fix stuff and do things, they were able to do these different things. So even when, thinking like the person who asked the comment, it's scary when you're like, wow, that's giving up a lot of money. But again, it's that what matters, There was a lot of things that I know they did that they lived well below their means. But it was because, well, what matters, right?
My husband, when I read him this question, he goes, well, she makes more than him. Can they survive off of his income if she is at home and uses it more appropriately? Mm-hmm. Our perspective, my husband and I, is that his job is to make the money. And my job is to save as much of his paycheck as I can and make sure that it is used most appropriately. So his job is to make it, and my job is to use it appropriately. Mm-hmm. And if I'm not using it appropriately, then I have to make up what I'm not using appropriately. And then I would have to go get a job because I'm not using my resources appropriately, and I would have to get a job. I'm not saying this is just everybody's mindset, but this is the mindset that my husband and I have had and that we have implemented. We live well in our means. Mm-hmm. It's uncomfortable sometimes because we live in California
where everything costs a fortune.
Gas is up to $6 a gallon again. So like living within means is difficult, but that's my job. Mm-hmm. My job is to save as much as we can. And then on my own, I go, well, how could I use what resources I have? Time, energy, space. Because my husband has afforded me time, energy, and space. What can I do with it to glorify God and our family? Not glorify our family, but to bring things like benefit our family.
Right.
By using it to then glorify God and to do, it's like a whole thing, a whole cycle. And I think if a cycle is like this and you have a break in it, it can no longer go around and the money or the time or the energy is being funneled out.
Yep.
And
yeah, I think it is so important. And again, I know that it's not, not many want to stand up and say that. I get it, because the world is like, how dare you say that, right? Everybody gets so worked up, but that's exactly what it is, right? You're a team. You work together. He does this, you do this, you perfectly complement one another in that. And yeah.
Specifically in this question, it says, I'm stressed and anxious every day.
Yeah.
Is that worth the paycheck? It might be worth the paycheck for a certain amount of time while you finagle things so that you can live within your means. Like you might have to do what you have to do, but try to get it so that you're not anxious and stressed every day, because that would bless your husband and your household, not children, your household more. And then anybody in your household, the mailman who comes by and is like, oh, ma'am, I don't have the blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, oh, let me love on you, minister you, blah, blah. And then you have somebody who has been touched because you have time to heart them. Mm-hmm. And you have that space because it's just somebody who came into your house. It's not a child necessarily, but it could be.
Right. Yeah. And I think that is what's so important, when you look at that and it's like, we all have to remember that, like, I know I say this all the time, but truly, like, remember this every day, that none of us are promised tomorrow. Like, I know we all take life for granted. We all do, right? I could drop over dead right now. I don't know that. None of us know that. Crazy things happen all the time. And yeah, there's responsibilities and there's things and there's whatnots that we have to deal with. But when we really stop and we go, like, all of us are given the same amount of time each day. I have the same 24 hours that you do, right? So what am I doing with mine? Now, that doesn't mean I'm saying, like, be productivity to the max and just pack everything in under the sun. It's saying make the most of the time that you have. We're here to leave a lasting impact for the Lord. So what are you doing with that? Giving all of your time away to an employer and being stressed out and anxious and worn out and all of the other things. I know I felt this way back with my job. And it was like, why am I doing this? I literally broke down at our dining room table one night in this house that we lived in. I told my husband, I was like, I can't do this. Like, our son's getting ready to start school. He's going to be gone all the time. I'm going to lose all that. Like, what are we doing? He's in daycare all day. We're busy. We're doing all of this stuff. Like, what is the point of life? Is it to just be stressed out and worn out and stretched thin and chasing the rat race of life? Like, is that really what we're here to do? Because that's lame. Like, cancel my subscription, right? Like, I don't want to do that. What is the point? And I don't think that's laziness. that's saying I'm not going to play your game because your game sucks, right? Like, I don't want to play your board game where I just have to keep running the circle and I need to collect go and, collect $200 and pass go. Like, who wants to do that's lame. Like, why don't we just decide that, like, hey, I don't want to play your game anymore. This is stupid life. Satan's system is not all it's cracked up to be. And I know that it's what most of us are comfortable with and what we've been used to and whatever, but there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I don't want to do this. And then you start looking biblically and going, putting everything through that biblical lens. And you're like, oh, imagine that. It's like God had it all figured out and told us what to do. And like, look what that opens up.
Today, okay, so my most impactful thing I can do today is most likely not making money for my boss. But as strange as it sounds, it's literally sitting on the couch and petting my daughter's head because she has strep throat. And when she wakes up, she's going to be a mess. Mm-hmm. And my biggest impact is petting her head and just being there for her.
Mm-hmm. And that's kingdom work, right? That right there. Yeah. I know it seems small and insignificant, but that's the kingdom work.
And it kind of seems lazy, and it kind of seems like it's not going to really amount to anything. I mean, I'm just petting my daughter's head.
Yeah.
Come on. So I've heard a lot today that we need to start discussing going against the grain.
Yeah.
Because I've heard
like my favorite topic, so I am so down for this. And this is what y'all would like some more of.
I hear that we need to talk about going against the grain with employers and employees and the system. I hear that we need to work on it with our mindsets for high school and homeschooling and what learning is. Mm-hmm. And like all of the questions today talked about going against the grain.
Yeah.
Oh, your flower farm and how even that worked against the grain of the 9-to-5 mentality. Mm-hmm. And going against the grain of that mindset where we have to be givers to the system and not to the people.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's what it is. We are giving our time and energy to the system when we should be investing in the people who are having to be in that system.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think that's it.
Okay. Going against the grain.
She's marking it down, guys. We will have it for the next.
Going against the grain.
So hopefully, I think we got at least a dent in some of the member questions. And you guys are fantastic. I think those were some great questions. And thank you all for hanging out. And sorry I got weird and emotional on everyone. But we will do rapid fire next week, which I'm excited about to really get through some questions. And I appreciate you all for hanging out with us, right? Teacups and all, for coming and hanging out. I think this is a fun time to get to have and just connect with you all. I appreciate it because I'm usually just doing this like one-sided. At least I have Sabrina do it with me now, but I love getting to connect with you guys and see your comments as we all go through and do stuff together and kind of hang out and have a little chatty coffee date with one another. So thank you, Sabrina, for putting it all together and making this all work nice and seamlessly. And thank you all for coming and joining us. But I guess we've used up all of our time, so we will let you guys go enjoy and get back to your Saturday. I think I'm now going to go out and curl up on the couch after this and decompress for a minute.
Well, this kind of works like a micro little therapy session.
Yeah. So thank you all for the therapy today. This was nice. And I know, like I said, doing teacups and a couple other things, there's a few things I want to get to do with you guys. So I plan to be sharing more over in our Geneva community group here soon, because I am excited to see all of that grow. But we'll talk about that over there. So thank you guys. We'll see you all next week. Oh, you guys are the best. Love you all. We'll see you all later. Thank you all for joining us today. It really was such a great time with Sabrina, my amazing co-host, and the wonderful friends here in the HMH Collective. I love having this community of sisters in Christ that really do desire to dig in, to grow, to be there for one another and be a true community. So for all of you in the HMH Collective, I am genuinely so thankful for you all. For the rest of you, if you haven't come over and joined us already, come and do so. It's such a wonderful time. And like I said, the month of November, we're working on building up that habit of being in the Word each and every day, doing a Bible study together, and you all are welcome to come and join us. So come over and join us. You can catch the live that's going on for this month and all the wonderful things that we have over in the HMH Collective. Otherwise, I will see you all right back here tomorrow. Bye, friends.